One-timers here, Matt and Justin. This is an interesting one because it's the winners of Group D, an unlikely team, Costa Rica, taking on the runners-up in Group C, and also another unlikely team they got here in Greece. This one I think is going to be interesting simply because I'm pretty sure this is uncharted territory for both teams, and one of them is going to get to the quarterfinals. Costa Rica, the one team that did not have a World Cup title to their name in Group D, but yet came out and beat Uruguay 3-1, beat Italy 1-0, and drew with England 0-0, won the group. Greece, they got blown out by Colombia in the first match 3-0, came back, drew Japan 0-0, then finally got a goal, but they got 2 goals that matter. They beat Ivory Coast 2-1, and probably the most dramatic game in this tournament with the late penalty and stoppage time that Samaras put away to win it for Greece and get to this point. I think this is going to be an interesting match just because I don't really know how it's going to go.
Definitely two contradicting styles. I think this game feels like a Elite Eight matchup between Butler and Wichita State. Seems like two teams that are kind of not expected to be here, and you like to see them take the underdogs against most teams they face. Costa Rica has played a lot better than anybody expected. They took down 2 European powerhouses and then one of the best teams from last year. I don't even think even one of the Costa Rican players would have told you this in their wildest dreams. And Greece is probably the worst team going into the knockout round. And that's hard for me to say because I'm a fan of Greece and I like the way they play. But it kind of seemed like to me they're limping into the knockout round. They got a little fortunate on the penalty. A little questionable. I'm not sure about it. But this Greece team is having a really hard time scoring it all, which is a normal problem for Greece. But this year more than any other, they cannot find goals. Even when they have clear chances, they just can't create. They can't create that many chances. Even when they get them, they're not scoring. I think that this is one of those games where we'll see what the tempo is. If it's an open type game, and the pace and a lot of chances going back and forth, I think there's no doubt Costa Rica will win. But if Greece can make it a physical game, if they can make the passes, if they can stop 1-2 passes between Costa Rica, and if Greece can get a free kick or two or a corner or find one of those goals, they can find a way to move on. But I think this is one of those games where the first 5 to 15 minutes, the tempo of what type of game it's going to be is really telling. And I think maybe the weather as well will be a big telling sign about how Greece can stay with Costa Rica on a tempo and pace-wise.
Yeah, I think Greece was fortunate in getting that penalty and able to get to this point. The thing that really sucks for Ivory Coast is I think it has to be a penalty. It's a dumb penalty because he kicked he like hacked at his leg right before the ball got there, and it was basically like he just ran into him. But one of the not as big time of a penalty, but you would call it anywhere else on the field, and it's in the box. It wasn't at least it wasn't like a Fred flop or anything like that. But what really intrigues me about Greece is sure they don't really create a lot of chances, but what they do is they've only scored 1 goal from the field of play, but that 1 goal really is what got them to this point, surprisingly enough, and it was basically because of an Ivory Coast mistake. They just passed it back. Oh, Greece stole it, went and scored. And that's really what Greece does. They have that perfected. They defend very well. They're organized behind the ball, and then they just wait for you to make a mistake, and then they pounce on it. And it's somehow gotten them into the round of 16. Costa Rica, what kind of worries me is they scored 3 goals against Uruguay, but then they've started slacking off. They only scored 1 against Italy, and then they didn't score at all against England. So you almost hope that this isn't a case where they're now starting to slowly go back and not being able to score goals. But I think one thing that does need to be noted is I think out of all the three teams they played so far, I think Uruguay has the worst defense. I think England's defense, I think Italy's defense, especially Italy's defense, is England and Uruguay, you could probably go either way, but I think Italy's defense is much better than Uruguay's. So, they did find a way to score against Italy, so I feel like they will find a way to score against Greece, but Greece has a very good defensive strategy. It just depends on if Costa Rica makes that one fatal mistake. Like I said with that Netherlands-Mexico game, it could go to penalties. This one could go to penalties just because no one figures out a way to score.
I don't want to see that. I think Greece might settle for that. And then Greece might just say, let's go penalties, and we'll try to make Costa Rica beat us by packing 10 guys behind the ball. I think Greece was a lot more positive in their last match against Ivory Coast. They definitely went forward a lot better, and did a lot more positive stuff on the offensive side. It's just going to be interesting to see. A lot of the Greece players, interesting to see in this game. I don't know how many of these players have been in a match of this magnitude before on both sides. I would guess Greece has more players that have played in even like a UEFA Cup or a Champions League type atmosphere.
Yeah.
I just wonder with some of the with Costa Rica, how the moment's too big for them, because I think we both have seen in past World Cups, if you're a striker, you might only get one, maybe two clear chances, and if the moment's too big for you and you're really nervous and you lean back and hit it over the bar, that could be the end of your World Cup. So I think this is one of those games that's going to be a very close game. It's going to be an interesting game. I think it could be very exciting if Costa Rica puts the face and does it successfully, or it could be like watching paint dry for 90 minutes. We'll just see what Greece how physical Greece can be, and if they can just have 20% possession and make Costa Rica pass it around. I think Greece find a way to win 1-0. I think the moment might be too big for Costa Rica, and I think Greece. I wonder what teams that win the last game to get in. I think there's certain momentum there. I think Greece find a way 1-0, whether it be off a free kick, penalty kick, or a cheap goal off an experienced turnover from Costa Rica.
Mm-hmm. I think I will agree with you on that. No disrespect to anyone on Costa Rica, but the man who stepped up to the spot and fired away the penalty to defeat Ivory Coast, Samaras, he plays for Celtic. He's been in Champions Leagues before. He comes up big for them in that last Euro. He only had like one touch, but he made sure he put in the back of the net at that point, even it up with Germany 1-1 and put a little fear in the Germans. I think he's the one that will get it done. I think he will either be part of the play that creates the goal, or he might be the one that puts it home, but I think I agree with you. I think Greece has that big-time striker that can get it done, and I think I'll agree with you when we'll both take Greece here.